Well, he's the youngest Justice and Correctional Services Minister the country has seen. Let's take a look at this clip to see who he is. All right, we'll come to that in just a short moment. We did say that he is the youngest Minister of Correctional Services and Justice that the country has seen, a lawyer by profession. He has been described as the ANC's favorite comeback kid. He was one of the very few voices in calling for former President Jacob Zuma to go in the wake of the Nkandla saga. Now he has the huge task to overhaul South Africa's justice system, deal with corruption and implement policies that will make his portfolio more effective. Let's take a look at this clip.
I, Ronald Lamola,
swear that I will be faithful to the Republic of South Africa.
Swear that I will be faithful to the Republic of South Africa.
And will obey.
And will obey.
Respect.
And
uphold the Constitution.
And uphold the Constitution.
So is he up to the task? A very good evening to you and welcome to Unfiltered on SABC 3 and Channel 404. I'm your host, Criselda Lewis, and our guest tonight is the Justice and Correctional Services Minister, Ronald Lamola. He's joining us tonight. Of course, you can share your views on SABC News Online, Twitter and Facebook pages using SABC News Unfiltered, hashtag SABC News Unfiltered. A very good evening to you, Minister. Thank you very much for your time. And of course, congratulations on your new portfolio.
Thank you. Good evening to the viewers at home, and thank you for the well wishes.
All right. Minister, we could go way back if we look at your political career. But, I'd like to start, with the ANC Youth League. You were seen as firebrands during the time, and you were deputy president of the ANC Youth League at some point.
Yeah.
And if you look back to that time, what thoughts immediately come to mind? We know that your political career has been through some tough waters and a few bumps on the road to get to where you are now.
Yeah, we believe that the Youth League is a preparatory school of the ANC. It's where young people had license to make mistakes. And we believe we could do anything which is possible under the sun. So we produced documents, we produce resolutions which we believe are going to restructure the South African society, are going to restructure the South African economy, and hence we said we want to see economic freedom in our lifetime. There were moments of madness, there were moments that were very difficult, but also there were very memorable moments which, as the Youth League of the ANC, we are very proud of. We will remember the march from Luthuli House to the Union buildings. Mm-hmm. It's something that it looked crazy when we were thinking about it from the beginning. Even ourselves, we said, hey, it's going to be a very tough journey. Mm-hmm. But we succeeded, and we made and inspired the youth of South Africa that anything is possible, it can be done. And I think South African youth then bought to the vision for economic freedom. They bought to the vision that the Youth League wanted to see a different country, a non-racial South Africa, where the economy benefits everyone and where the education system benefits all South Africans, where the natural resources of the country benefits all South Africans. Mm. That was the vision and the views and also the kind of life that we're living at that time in the Youth League.
But it didn't end well. You had the expulsion of Julius Malema and basically leaving the ANC Youth League in the doldrums. What was going through your mind at the time?
Yes, obviously there was a generational contestation between ourselves and the ANC leadership, because the ANC leadership did not really agree with our methods. They said our methods are too ill-disciplined, we need to raise it in a particular way. And we said no, but there is only one way you can raise a view, and is to put it in a discussion document. These are conference resolutions. And we stood by what we believed in. What went through our minds at the time was that we did not know what is going to happen, whether we'll be expelled, whether we'll be disbanded, what is going to happen with our lives. But we said despite what might happen to our personal lives, we need to stand by the vision and the program of action of the Youth League, because that resolution and that program was adopted by about 5,000 young people, and about 20,000 young people marched to the Union building. That was a show of convictions and commitment. So that's what inspired us to stood by what was the resolutions.
Then you had the disciplinary hearing, of course, at the time. And at the time, you know, many have been calling to say, you know, ask him what was going through his mind at the time during that disciplinary hearing. Did you think the process at all was fair then towards you?
No, we did not think it was really fair, because we felt that these are resolutions of conference. We have pronounced on them. And if the ANC leadership has an issue with the resolutions, let's sit down and engage. And that's why we used to call for a direct engagement to the ANC leadership, but there was no engagement. Instead, we received charges. And at some point when we wanted an engagement, we had to budge a meeting where we were invited, and we were all charged. They said, no, you have budged a meeting of the officials. We were charged for budging. Fortunately, they had given us apples and bananas. And during the appeals, it was found that no, but these guys did not budge. They entered and they were even offered food in an African way. So it was a contestation between the young and the old. And I think the ANC being an old organization, such contestations will always happen, because the new generation wants to see the ANC shifting towards a particular direction, which is shifting with society. And the old are used to doing things the way they've been doing them. I think that is what brought them that friction between us and the leadership of the ANC. What was going through our minds was to say, now that we've reached this stage, is it not possible that we find a political solution? And that is what we're engaging with when we're trying to engage the leadership of the ANC and so forth. But unfortunately, it did not yield any results.
At that time, when you were going through that kind of turmoil, did at any point you feel hopeless or feel like just giving up, throwing in the towel?
No, yeah, sometimes you will feel like that, but at least when you meet young people, you go to the various rallies and the various platforms, you find young people re-energized, and that revives you. And it was not an easy process, because it was also affecting whether you're still going to participate or what will happen to your life. Because you'll remember, most of us came from the rural province. I came from Mpumalanga, Cindy Samagaga came from KZN, and Kinetse came from the northwest, Julius came from Limpopo. So we were not sure what is going to happen. If then you are disbanded or you are expelled, it means that now you are going to go back home. What is going to happen? So those were things that were going through our minds. But we stood by what we believed in, because we really believed the resolutions could help us change the structure of the South African society to benefit all South Africans.
I'd like your view on the ANC Youth League now. Just before we move to other issues in your new portfolio, many say that you know, the ANC Youth League now is struggling to find relevance with young people. June is Youth Month. What are your thoughts on that? Where is the ANC Youth League in all of this?
Yeah, no, it is. There are challenges, and I think the challenges came as a result of that disbandment of that Youth League and that expulsion. Because with the Youth League, you need to allow young people to
Did the Youth League die?
You need to allow young people to be imaginative and to experiment with ideas. So if you cannot experiment with ideas, you are scared. So now young people are scared in the ANC. They are scared. They can't even raise and experiment a view, because if you experiment this view, it might be said it's outside ANC policy. So I think that has killed the activism in the structures of the Youth League. So the ANC will need to help the Youth League go to its Congress, revive it, and allow young people to be young. The young people must behave like young people. They must be able to raise views. They must be able to learn in the experience of their own struggle.
Minister, shortly after the break, we'll take a short break now. Shortly after the break, we'll talk about your new portfolio. Stay with us here on Unfiltered as we continue our discussion with the new Justice and Correctional Services Minister, Ronald Lamola. Stay with us.
We're explorers. We always have been, endlessly curious, always looking for answers, for new frontiers, for new stories. Because that is who we are. From script to screen, from yelling action to taking you on a journey. Radio producers, script writers, on-air presenters, news reporters, sports analysts. We spend late nights creating captivating storylines and earlier mornings keeping you informed, educated, and entertained. For us, it's not a job, it's a calling. We do this and more because you do your part. SABC TV licenses, made possible by you.
What are you predicting with the sixth parliament?
They've got to up their game.
Why is it so important for you to create platforms where people can share and grow?
I think there's something special about conversation and sharing of experiences.
Mkhwebane investigated the role of senior ANC leaders in the Free State, including then Premier.
Advocate Mkhwebane has never explained why she altered the provisional report in material ways.
The provisional report, there's no way where it's mentioning that the Premier is implicated.
This is such a massive festival, and what does it mean to you as an artist?
It's more than humbling for me to actually be showcasing everything about my music, so it's celebrating Africa.
Sarah, who climbed Everest, she arrived here with much jubilation.
I took every African with me to the top of the world.
Most of the names on the wall are of soldiers who lost their lives in Somalia under the African Union mission in Somalia, AMISOM.
In Africa, we have Ubuntu.
We need to make more integration.
The highlight of Tsitsigama is the highest bungee jump in the world.
The main driver of that area is tourism.
Hello again. Thank you very much for staying with us. You're watching Unfiltered on SABC3 and Channel 404. With us tonight is the newly appointed Justice and Correctional Services Minister, Ronald Lamola. Of course, we've asked you to share your views with us. What do you think about his appointment? Do you think he can turn around the views about, the justice cluster in South Africa? Let's take a look at some of the tweets that you have sent through us now. Let's have them up on the screen there. Lala Poshoko says, if you can ensure that our courts, more especially High Court, are accessible by all, including those are without money at the moment, magistrates and judges, gives attorney upper hand. Legal Aid South Africa must not only be for criminal matters but also for civil and constitutional issues. Thank you so much, Lala, for engaging with us. Tabang says if he can work hand in glove with the judiciary, he will be the best justice minister we will ever have. We need permanent judges at the Land Claims Court. We need capacity there. He must go there to see for himself. Otherwise, I have confidence in him and I wish him well. Thanks, Tabang, for engaging with us. Ernst Jr. says it usually takes years to effect real change as minister. Legislation is key before you can get things done. Thank you very much, all of you, for engaging with us here on Unfiltered. Minister, I think one of the tweets that came up there, let's take a look at this final one, I think. Sibulele says it will take more than just a new minister to restore credibility. We need to remove the price tag from justice. It is something that needs to be accessible to everyone, despite the size of their pockets. So many poor people continue to suffer at the hands of our justice system. And that actually brings me to my next question, Minister. There's a general perception that there is only justice for the rich and there's no justice for the poor. How do you, perhaps, I know you're still new in this portfolio, but surely that perception needs to change?
Yeah, obviously, when we took over in 1994 was to build a justice system that is non-racial, non-sexist, and that is just for everyone, and which allows for equitable access. It's a dream we're still working towards. The reality which we face today is that South Africa is one of the most unequal societies in the world economically. So that's why the state has to intervene, and the legal aid process was one of the interventions. Some of the interventions relate to helping farm workers through the Department of Rural Development and so forth. So the justice system must be accessible to everyone, rich or poor, white or black, colored or Indian, from all across walks of life. So it is a work in progress. Concerns have been raised with regard to the fees that some of them are being charged and so forth. So we have to work collectively as a sector, not only the department, the practitioners, the advocates, the attorneys, and the entire justice system to enable everyone to access. But there are those that also allow pro bono work and so forth, but it's still not enough, particularly when it comes to civil matters. I see one of the comments. It's a reality that is only the legal aid only deals with criminal matters, but there are some few civil cases like divorce and so forth that they are able to help with. So there has been some foundation that has been laid, and we can build from there.
All right. I want to talk about, what's currently capturing South Africa, one of, continuing stories, the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. And, at the center of all of this is, of course, the controversial Gupta family. I know that the last time we'd spoken to the Justice Department, there seemed to have been some talks between South Africa and the United Arab Emirates to see what can be done about getting some members of the Gupta family to come to South Africa and answer to some of the questions that have been raised in commissions like that. Will you be looking for a report, amongst other issues, of course, that would not be your central focus, but would you be looking for a report on how far that process is? Because some feel that without having, for example, the Gupta family come to South Africa to answer, tomorrow we've got one of their former employees will be taking the stand in the Commission of Inquiry. Will you be asking for a report on matters such as that, how far the process is to get the Guptas here?
We have just signed the agreement on mutual legal assistance with the UAE, so the systems are in place. What the systems are waiting for is the Commission to make recommendations, what needs to be done, who needs to be brought into the country. And if the NPA wants to bring anyone from the UAE, whether it's the Guptas or any other person, that agreement enables them to be able to bring anyone in terms of that agreement that has been signed, and the department will be willing to help. So as a department, our role is to put up the systems and enable the enforcement agencies to execute, which we have done. And I think we will also be able to help the NPA with their processes, but remember they still needs to be independent and do it as an institution. And we're also the ones providing support to the judicial, all the judicial commissions that are happening, all the commissions of inquiries, the Zondo Commission and the PIC inquiry. All of them are under the department. It has to give secretarial support. And through that support, we are able to monitor and so forth. And if there are recommendations that may come with regard to anyone that needs to be brought, the department stands ready to proceed with helping.
Yes, but for the process itself, for example, like commissions like the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture, to be seen to be having teeth, yes, we'll wait for those recommendations, but perhaps South Africans would also believe that a great example would be set if the South African government manages to secure the extradition of the Gupta family to South Africa. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, obviously it has to be done through due process.
Yeah.
And that's why we're saying systems are there. Yeah. We have laid the framework, which is our role as a department. Remember, the NPA or they have to act without fear or favor or any interference from us. If we just interfere, you will say we're also doing political meddling and we're going to muddy the waters. So the NPA or the Commission has got, we have said, and from our side as a department, we have said the commissions of inquiries and any other thing does not suspend the NPA, the Hawks, or anyone who wants to do their job. If they feel they've got evidence, let them do it in terms of what the Constitution says. So the department says a framework has been laid, and it's the commissions needs to provide the recommendations. Obviously, with the commission, we also want to allow it to live its life, so that when it has lived its life, it can be able to produce recommendations which are implementable. And the president, up to so far, has implemented all recommendations that have come before him, the NPA inquiry, the SARS inquiry. So we are clear that the framework that we lay, it is not just lip service.
Yeah. Also, just before we go to our next break, I'm not sure how much time we have left, but You know, are you also hoping, I mean, we saw the recent press conference by the National Director of Public Prosecutions as well as Harmonia Cronje, where they seem to be speaking with one voice in terms of the cases that will be prioritized, the high-profile ones, the ones emanating from the commissions of inquiry into state capture. Do you believe that with the correct support, they would be able to achieve? But they mentioned quite a number of challenges that the NPA itself is going through.
Yeah, indeed, the institution needs to be restored, and they need also that support financially for them to be able to execute their job. But I think a foundation is laid. It's clear that they are now building blocks, and they will be able to execute their task. And from the department, we have also said to the NPA, and we'll further, when we meet them, be able to say we don't want to interfere with their job, but the support that the department is supposed to provide, it must be provided. And we also have the SIU, which I think it has laid a good foundation. At this stage, they have done a good job on the various matters that are before them in terms of now starting a tribunal that is going to collect some of the funds that have been siphoned in some of the state-owned entities. So already there is a work that has been done. So as a new minister who is coming in, I think the ball is ready to start rolling. It is just that the system that have had to be put in place, and we will continue to do so, so that the institutions can work independently, and they must do their job without any fear or favor or prejudice to anyone. They must do as what the Constitution says should be done.
All right, Minister, let's take a short break. We'll chat about other issues when we get back from this break. Stay with us here on Unfiltered. We'll have the final leg of our discussion with the new Justice and Correctional Services Minister, Ronald Lamola.
Sarah, who climbed Everest, she arrived here with much jubilation.
I took every African with me to the top of the world.
Most of the names on the wall are of soldiers who lost their lives in Somalia under the African Union Mission in Somalia, AMISOM.
In Africa, we have Ubuntu.
We need to make more integration. The highlight of Tsitsikamma is the highest bungee jump in the world.
The main driver of that area is tourism.
Trans Travel is your ultimate hookup on all things arts, travel, entertainment, and lifestyle. We go far and wide discovering the world's undiscovered wonders. So be sure not to miss Trans Travel every Saturday at 5:30 p.m.
The SABC News mobile app is your one-stop digital portal to all the news you need. Stay connected with the latest in breaking news. Watch the SABC News channel along with clips and live streams of all the big news events, and listen to all the SABC News radio stations live, including podcasts and much more. Simply download the SABC News app to your Android or iOS device from either the Play Store or the App Store. SABC News, independent, impartial.
Hello again. Thanks for staying with us as we conclude in the next few moments our discussion with the newly appointed Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Ronald Lamola. Minister, we saw over the past couple of months a lot of discontent amongst black lawyers, where there's also an insinuation that government does not even support black lawyers in a number of cases that we have seen. The hiring of black professionals, their working conditions are some of the issues that have been raised. I saw you take a picture a few days ago with one of the astute black lawyers in this country. Yeah. I mean, how do you plan to also ensure that that morale is there amongst the legal fraternity itself in its entirety?
Obviously, the prestige of the profession needs to be restored. We also have to ensure that there is equitable access to work by black lawyers. It is non-negotiable that 25 years into democracy, black lawyers still have to march. So we are going to attend to the matter as a matter of agency, and already the Director General is at work. They march in Umtata, and I've said, let's get the report, let's understand what is happening, let's deal with let's provide a solution but not only deal with the issue of access of black lawyers to work, but we must also deal with the accreditation that has been withdrawn at the Walter Sisulu University, because when you have that accreditation withdrawn, it is affecting a lot of black students to come into the system. So those are issues that already are in our radar, but it's not only government that consume legal work. The banks, the listed companies, they must also come to the party, because for us to address the issue of inequality in this country, we need everyone, not only government. It is in the interest of the private sector, it is in the interest of government and civil society that everyone has access to the economy of this country. So that is a process that we are at work with, and I think we are going to find consensus in society, but it cannot be negotiated 25 years into democracy that black lawyers still needs to be begging how they must do their job. And I think even government departments, there has been some work that they have done, but I believe it's not enough. It needs to be more. Black lawyers need to be found in the mainstream of the economy.
Minister, I think that's the perfect place to leave it there. Let's take a look at this poll that we were asking you. Let's have that on the screen, where we've been asking you, of course, whether you believe that the new Minister of Correctional Services will restore credibility in the justice system. And you've had 53% saying yes, and then 24% of you saying no, and then 23% saying nothing will happen. Let's take one tweet. I'm hoping we'll be able to do that. Let's also see how you've been engaging with us. Sir LK says, I have confidence in him because he is not a stranger to the justice system. Furthermore, he is young blood, full of energy and enthusiasm. Sir LK, thank you very much for engaging with us. There are many more tweets that have also come through. Thank you so much for engaging with us. We'll retweet some of those on our SABC online page as well. And thank you so much for engaging with us. And Minister, thank you very much for being with us here on the program. We wish you all the best in your new portfolio. Thank you very much for watching Unfiltered here. We'll see you again next week Sunday. You enjoy the week ahead. Good night.